In 1895, police entered a three-story hotel in Chicago. What they discovered inside would horrify the nation and reveal the existence of America's first documented serial killer. This is the story of H. Holmes and his murder castle. The year was 1893. Chicago was about to host the world's Columbian Exposition, the World's Fair that would attract 27 million visitors to the city. It was an age of innovation, opportunity, and progress. But behind the gleaming white buildings of the fair, something far darker was taking shape. At the corner of 63rd and Wallace Streets in the Englewood neighborhood, a peculiar hotel was under construction. Its builder was a charming pharmacist and businessman named Dr. H. Holmes. To the outside world, he was a successful entrepreneur preparing to cash in on the flood of tourists. But the hotel he was building wasn't designed to host guests. It was designed to kill them. Before he was H. Holmes, he was Herman Webster Mudgett, born in 1861 in Gilmanton, New Hampshire. By all accounts, he was an intelligent child, perhaps too intelligent. According to later testimonies, young Herman displayed disturbing behavior early on. He reportedly tortured animals and was fascinated by death. One particularly chilling story claims that local bullies once forced him to touch a human skeleton in a doctor's office. Rather than being frightened, Herman became obsessed. He excelled in school and eventually enrolled in medical school at the University of Michigan in 1879. It was here that his criminal career truly began. Holmes would steal cadavers from the medical school laboratory, disfigure them, and file false insurance claims, collecting money by pretending these bodies were people he had taken policies out on. After graduating in 1884, he moved to Chicago under a new name, Dr. Henry Howard Holmes. The transformation was complete. Herman Mudgett, the small-town boy, had vanished. In his place stood H. Holmes, charming, sophisticated, and utterly ruthless. In 1886, Holmes arrived in the Englewood neighborhood and took a job at a pharmacy owned by a Dr. Holton, whose wife was dying of cancer. Holmes was the perfect employee, charismatic with customers, knowledgeable about medicines, and apparently trustworthy. When Mrs. Holton died, Dr. Holton mysteriously disappeared shortly after. Holmes told neighbors the old man had moved to California. He now owned the pharmacy. No one questioned it. No one suspected that Dr. Holton would never be seen again. With the World's Fair approaching, Holmes saw an opportunity. In 1887, he purchased an empty lot across from his pharmacy and began construction on a three-story building. The ground floor would house shops and his pharmacy. The second and third floors would be a hotel. But this was no ordinary hotel. Holmes designed the building himself, and he was meticulous about keeping his plans secret. He hired and fired construction crews constantly, ensuring no one worker understood the building's full layout. When workers questioned the strange design elements, Holmes would fire them on the spot and hire new crews. What they were building was a labyrinth of horror. The second floor contained over 100 rooms, but many had no windows. Doors opened to brick walls. Hallways led nowhere. Some rooms were soundproofed and fitted with gas lines that Holmes could control from his bedroom. Others had peepholes installed so he could watch his victims. There were trap doors in the floors, chutes that led to the basement, secret passages between walls, stairways that went nowhere. Some rooms had modified dimensions, just slightly smaller than they should be, with the extra space creating hidden compartments in the walls. The third floor was even more sinister. It contained what Holmes called his asphyxiation chamber, a sealed, airtight room where he could pump in gas and watch through a peephole as his victims suffocated. But the basement was where the true horror revealed itself. Here, Holmes had installed a massive furnace capable of reaching extreme temperatures. There were vats of acid and quicklime, a surgical table with restraints. an elongated table that many believe was used to stretch victims, either for torture or to articulate their skeletons for sale. You see, Holmes had another business on the side. He sold articulated human skeletons to medical schools. He advertised that he could provide them quickly and in pristine condition. No one questioned where they came from. The building was completed in 1889. Holmes called it the World's Fair Hotel. The newspapers would later call it the Murder Castle. When the World's Fair opened in May 1893, Chicago was flooded with visitors. Young women from across the country traveled alone to the city, seeking work and excitement. Many of them never returned home. Holmes targeted these women specifically. He would advertise jobs at his pharmacy or hotel in the newspaper. When applicants arrived, they met a handsome, well-dressed man who spoke eloquently and seemed respectable. He was charming. He was educated. He was a doctor. He was also a monster. Holmes would hire the young women, often convincing them to take out life insurance policies with him as the beneficiary. Some he seduced and promised marriage. Others simply needed a place to stay, and he offered them rooms in his hotel at reduced rates. Once they were under his roof, they became prisoners. Emmeline Cigrand was a beautiful young woman from Indiana who came to work as Holmes' stenographer in 1892. She wrote excited letters to her family about her new employer. Then the letters stopped. When her family inquired, Holmes told them she had run off and gotten married. Her body was later found in the basement, stripped of flesh. Julia Connor worked at Holmes's pharmacy with her young daughter, Pearl. She disappeared in 1891. Holmes claimed she had gone to Iowa. She hadn't. She and her daughter were murdered, their bodies disposed of in the building. Anna Williams, Minnie Williams, Nanny Williams. The list of victims goes on. Young women arrived at the murder castle full of hope. They never left. The exact number of Holmes's victims may never be known. He confessed to 27 murders, but evidence suggests the real number could be over 200. During the World's Fair alone, with thousands of people moving through Chicago, it would have been easy for women to vanish without suspicion. His method varied. Some victims were locked in soundproof rooms and left to starve. Others were gassed while they slept. Some were trapped in the vault-like room and suffocated. Those who fought back were killed more violently. Once they were dead, Holmes would strip the bodies and drop them through chutes to the basement. There, he would dissect them on his surgical table. Some bodies were burned in the furnace. Others were dissolved in acid, and some were meticulously stripped of flesh, the bones cleaned and articulated for sale. Holmes was making money from murder in every possible way: insurance fraud, stealing his victims' valuables, and selling their skeletons. He had turned killing into a profitable business. Holmes's downfall began not with murder, but with a scam gone wrong. In July 1894, after the World's Fair ended, Holmes's hotel was not as busy. He was running low on money. So he decided to commit insurance fraud again. He took out a massive insurance policy on a business partner named Benjamin Pitzel, planning to fake Pitzel's death and split the money. But this time, Holmes actually killed Pitzel. He couldn't help himself. When the insurance company became suspicious and launched an investigation, Holmes panicked. He fled, taking Pitzel's wife and 3 of their children with him. While leading them across the country, promising they would see their husband and father again, Holmes murdered 3 of the children. It was this crime that finally caught him. In November 1894, renowned detective Frank Geyer was assigned to the case. He tracked Holmes across the United States and eventually arrested him in Boston. As the investigation deepened, Geyer became suspicious of Holmes's hotel in Chicago. In July 1895, police entered the building at 63rd and Wallace. What they found was beyond comprehension: secret passages, trap doors, soundproof rooms with gas pipes, a massive furnace containing bone fragments, vats of acid with dissolved remains, women's clothing and jewelry. And in the basement, a nightmare of surgical equipment, restraints, and human remains. The newspapers exploded with the story. "Murder Castle," screamed the headlines. Holmes's face was on every front page. The nation was horrified. How could this have happened? How many had died in that building? Holmes was charged with multiple murders, though prosecutors focused on Benjamin Pitzel and his children, the cases they could prove beyond doubt. While awaiting trial, Holmes gave a full confession to the Philadelphia Inquirer, claiming 27 victims. Some historians believe he was boasting, exaggerating his kill count. Others believe he was minimizing it, protecting secrets he would take to the grave. His trial was a sensation. Thousands gathered outside the courthouse. Holmes remained calm throughout, even charming at times. He represented himself for part of the trial, cross-examining witnesses with the skill of a trained lawyer. But the evidence was overwhelming. On November 30th, 1895, the jury deliberated for less than 3 hours before finding him guilty. The sentence was death by hanging. On May 7th, 1896, H. Holmes was led to the gallows at Moyamensing Prison in Philadelphia. He remained composed until the end. When asked if he had any final words, he reportedly said, "Take your time, don't bungle it." The executioner did not. At 10:12 a.m., the trapdoor opened. But Holmes did not die quickly. The drop failed to break his neck cleanly, and he slowly strangled to death over 15 minutes as witnesses watched in horror. Some saw it as justice. Others saw it as a final cruelty in a story filled with cruelty. Holmes had requested that his body be buried in cement to prevent anyone from dissecting him or putting his skeleton on display. The irony was not lost on anyone. The man who had sold his victims' bones to medical schools wanted to ensure his own remained undisturbed. His request was honored. He was buried in Holy Cross Cemetery in a coffin filled with cement. In August 1895, before Holmes' execution, a mysterious fire broke out in the murder castle. Much of the building was destroyed. Some believed it was arson, an attempt to destroy evidence or perhaps prevent the building from becoming a macabre tourist attraction. The remaining structure was torn down in 1938. Today, a post office stands on the site. The only reminder of what happened there is a historical marker and the memories preserved in archives. But the question remains, how many died in the murder castle? Holmes confessed to 27 murders, but he was a habitual liar. Some researchers believe the number could be as low as 9 confirmed victims. Others suggest it could be over 200, especially during the chaos of the World's Fair, when thousands of people were moving through Chicago and disappearances could easily go unnoticed. We may never know the truth. The building is gone. Many of the bodies were destroyed so thoroughly that they could never be identified, and Holmes took his secrets to his concrete grave. H. Holmes was not just America's first documented serial killer. He was something new in criminal history. He was organized, intelligent, and methodical. He built an entire structure designed for murder. He turned killing into a business. He preyed on the vulnerable, young women seeking opportunity in a growing city. He exploited the trust people placed in doctors, in businessmen, in those who seemed respectable. And perhaps most chillingly, he did it all in plain sight. The murder castle stood on a busy Chicago street for years. Construction crews built it. Guests stayed there. Police walked past it every day. Evil doesn't always lurk in dark alleys. Sometimes it stands on a well-lit corner wearing a friendly smile. The victims of H. Holmes deserve to be remembered, not as statistics in a killer's confession, but as real people with hopes and dreams who had their lives stolen from them. Emmeline Segrin, Julia Connor and her daughter Pearl, Anna and Minnie Williams, Benjamin Pitezel and his children. They were his victims, but they should not be his legacy. This is the crime historian, preserving the stories that time forgot. What do you think? Was Holmes telling the truth about 27 victims, or was the real number much higher? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history's darkest crimes, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Next week, we'll be investigating another Victorian-era mystery that shocked the world. Until then, remember, the past is never truly buried. I'm the crime historian, and I'll see you in the archives.